From your success in family planning and now continuing with the HIV/AIDS program, prevention programs, you are focusing on community development and poverty eradication. How did that leap come about?
Well, it was from day one. When I started my work in family planning, I was in the government, in the planning authority. My job was to go around the countryside to evaluate the progress of the programs governments were putting in for the people, and I had to report back. One of the things I noticed was the huge numbers of children everywhere, and I wondered whether there was any link between the huge numbers of children and the inability of the government to supply the needs of the people. And so we looked into it, the World Bank looked, and sure enough, we had 7 kids per family, huge population growth of 3.3%, and we could not keep up in terms of the goods and services for the people. So I said, well, since we cannot expand the goods and services because we had limited funds, we can at least try, use less money to slow down the demands. That means the number of births, the number of people, number of kids per family. So that was the approach. That's how I entered it. And I tried very hard with other people for about 6 years to try to convince the government we've got to do something. And of course in those days they said, oh no, this is sort of the early 60s, said, oh no, we want to be a superpower, we need lots of children, lots of kids. In the end, after 6 years, they recognized the fact that it was the truth. And so they said, okay, you can do family planning, but there was no money for public education. So that's when I decided to come out and do the public education and then get the contraceptives into the hands of the people in the villages. It's not just information. You have to deliver the goods. So the contraceptives, pills and condoms were put into the hands of selected couples in each village and trained. And they were sort of, in a sense, voted by the villagers as somebody they trusted. And so before long, the whole country could get pills and condoms day or night without having to travel out of the village. And so again, it was just appealing to the basic need that we could not keep up with the development services if the population grows with that size. So we did both.
Sustainability of development programs is often a major problem in developing countries. How do you address this?
Well, I think before you say how we're going to solve it, you've got to say who are we helping? Well, we're trying to help the poor, all right? Those living in poverty, let's say, on under $2 a day or whatever the definition happens. Let's call them the poor, the ultra poor. And before you help them, you have to ask, what do they do each day? And some pick up garbage and sell, some raise some chickens, some do some vegetables, some buy some rice and cook and sell, and noodles. They engage in business, just like everybody else trying to make a profit in every Asian country, or the big shops, the hotels, airlines trying to make a profit. That's what they're trying to do. They are business people, but they're bad at business because they lack business skills and they lack credit. So you've got to know the illness before you can provide the cure. So the illness, to me, very, very clearly after 20-something years of very close observation work with them, these people continue to be poor despite their desire to be in business. They continue to be poor because they lack business skills and access to credit at a normal rate. So that's very clear. So if you want to get them out of poverty, you have to tackle these two things. Make sure they have business skills, and the other one is to enable them to get credit. Now, governments do this? And my observation, again, this is every government in the world, basically. Maybe the almost exception is Norway and Singapore, where government can do just about everything. But basically, one must accept the fact that there are many people in each country, or there are some people in each country, that are not being served by government services. It's just not there, it doesn't reach there, or it's totally void. At the same time, these people are too poor to buy the alternative services provided by the business sector, so they fall through the crack. All right? Now, what's the government approach to helping the poor? Very simple. They use a welfare approach, and they use government officials. I'm not trying to say government officials are bad. I've been one myself. But governments can do infrastructure, roads, electricity, telephones, railways, and even airports if they're a little bit exorbitant in terms of price. They can do that fairly well. But it is not the skill, not the forte of government officials to have business skills. Governments don't know how to make money. They excel at taking money, tax departments. So they use a welfare approach, and it doesn't work. Why? Because welfare does not teach you anything new. Two, it does not empower you in any way. And thirdly, it makes you even more dependent on the handout. So it's not sustainable. So you've got to take a sustainable approach, and that is who can provide business skills? Business people. Secondly, can they also provide some assistance, financial and educational assistance? Yes, they're very good at it. So part of their corporate social responsibility, actually we've been trying this out for 21 years. Before the word came around, we just said that companies ought to do something too. You know, you can't expect you to eat chicken meat and everybody else to eat chicken bone and chicken feet. Surely that doesn't make you feel good. So we've been doing that all along. We call it, you know, just sort of social responsibility. And now it's changed the name. But basically, they're companies. But prior to that, we had foundations, associations doing it. So we have come up with what we call Village Development Partnership, where we ask companies to partner a village. And both work. The villagers provide labor, and they are rich with their labor. Just often nobody buys it. And the company is rich with cash. So two rich groups come together. They plant trees, and the transfer of money takes place. No way that can money be transferred without planting trees. So every tree is about $1.50 US. So both parties have given, and that money goes into what we call a microcredit fund. We call it the Village Development Bank, operated and owned by the villagers who've been trained. And then we also teach, because the MBA's school in the world, including my country, only help the rich. And I'm sure in your country it helps the rich too. It doesn't help the poor. So we have to realign a lot of our tertiary educations. If anyone needs the help of the MBAs, it's the poor. Now, the rich can do without it, but that's not being done. So we have come up with our own barefoot MBA to teach the village people basic business skills at a level that they can understand, and then they can borrow the money and pay interest on it, 12% interest. And it's owned by the people. So this is the sustainability, is that we don't need assistance from the company more than 6 years. And again, the cost is very low. It's $100 per head. That's it. Most of it stays as a revolving loan fund. But the key element why it works is community empowerment. We help to empower the community. They have a village development committee. It's not registered. It's just a group of people who are interested. In fact, all the villagers. The village development committee, which is divided into the bank, into the village youth government, elderly support, healthcare, education, and environment. So those are the 5 things that they work and help to do. And they help to look at the money. The money is only loaned to those at the bottom end of the economy. If you have a pickup truck, don't expect to get any loan. It's got to be, and every loan is made public, and every monthly repayment is made public. So everyone knows. And what's important is that the villagers feel it's their money because they planted the trees. They gave their labor. They didn't charge for it. They gave their labor, and the money's in there. So it also shows you the poor can contribute. But we have to give the value to whatever assets they have. And one of the things that we have started, and I hope that the rest of the world should follow, is that if we're talking about getting people out of poverty, you must include people living with HIV, or you will leave out 1/3 of the poorest. So that's number one. The second one is that poor people have no asset. They have no land, they have no earring, they have no watch, no motorcycle. What can they use as collateral? Banks don't lend them. Yet in economics, labor is a factor of production, but banks just don't recognize it. So it's quite illegal, really. So we have said in our program that we will offer all the people who are poor access to credit as a human right. So that should be number 31 for the UN Declaration of Human Rights.